Thank you. Feels like we're back in school again. I always wanted to do this. Cool. Never done this from this end of the room. All right. So, a few months ago, I was in Namibia. And we were visiting a private farm. I don't know, have some of you been to Namibia before? Anyone? Some hands? Well, if you're talking about a farm, then I come from the Netherlands. I think of cows, sheep, chickens, that sort of farm. But in Namibia, a farm is a totally different thing. Yes, they do have some livestock, but these are huge, immense areas, which are basically national parks, where there's not only some livestock, but there are also a lot of wild animals, lions, elephants, snakes, basically everything wants to kill you there. So we were visiting this farm, and we just deployed our latest invention. It's this little guy. This is a cell phone sensor. And we developed this because at some point we learned that poachers, so the bad guys that actually want to kill these elephants and rhinos, they carry a cell phone with them. So we developed this cell phone sensor so we can hope that we can actually catch these guys. And we just deployed our sensors on the farm. We were chilling in the evening, and suddenly, bam, we got a notification. So that can only mean one thing, right? Poachers on the farm. So we want to catch those guys. We hop into the vehicle, it's dark outside, we're looking with flashlights if we can find traces of these guys, and suddenly we see them in a dried up riverbed hiding. We drive up to them, they run away. Well, this could get very dicey because these guys are probably carrying some kind of weapons with them. We hop out of the car and we chase them. And then the filmmaker says, and cut! We have it. Luckily, this was not a real dangerous situation, just an explainer video we were shooting. Okay, one more time. Kind of seems to work. There you see the device hanging in a tree.
Poachers, kom. Ja, ek trek al vir die laaste 2 weke. Ons moet gaan, ons moet nou gaan. Daar's hulle, daar's hulle. Julle bliksem.
All right, so this is what I do for a job, for a living. And I'm not some kind of ranger or anything. Guess I'm the same as most of you guys here. I'm a software engineer. And talking about work, did you know that we spend 1/3 of our waking life working? These are little facts that are both understandable and shocking at the same time. 1/3 of your waking life you spend working. So I would say, better make it count then, right? And that is why I find it shocking if I come across a study that says this. 25% of the people are not sure if their work contributes to anything to society. And half of those people even say that their own job is useless. Can you imagine that? Spending 1/3 of your life on something that you find useless? That is something that I find quite shocking. And even though I've always done something that I like, coding, I also felt like this at some point in my life. At some point, I thought, well, is this all? I think I was about, when I started with computers, I was about 15 years old. My dad, he bought this Pentium computer. It had 256 MB hard drive, 8 megabytes of RAM memory, and a double-speed CD-ROM player. What a beast of a machine. I thought I would never need a better machine. But anyway, that computer set me on my journey as a coder. It started with fiddling with the autoexec.bat file and the config.sys file. For the old people here, you probably know what that is. I needed to load my CD-ROM drivers in the high memory because I wanted to play Doom or something like that. But it was my first step into coding. I studied information science in The Hague, and I started working as a junior software developer at a software company. I did a lot of Java stuff, and after about 10 years, this moment came. I noticed that I was, starting to lose the joy in my work, and I had no clue what was going on. I was still like to program and stuff like that, but okay, maybe I need a change of scenery. So I switched jobs. I left my company and I went to work at a company called Q42. It's a software company. We do a lot of cool projects. It was fun at first, and I even got to work on projects that are huge in the Netherlands, big apps that were used by millions of users. But still, I felt at some point, is this really everything I'm going to do? Is this all? And maybe, I don't know, looking at this 25%, I wasn't alone. And maybe even one of you guys have also, thought this as well. And I'm definitely not the only one when it comes to the tech industry. And I cannot summarize this better than this quote. The best minds of my generation are thinking about how to make people click ads. A former Facebook engineer said this. And this is true, right? There are so many smart people working at these large companies, making stuff that we, as humanity, let's be honest, don't really need, right? And this changed my perspective, because I was now dedicated to, okay, how can I get the most out of my lines of code? How can I do that? And I still work at Q42, but when I was having this existential crisis, I started to talk with Tim, that's my colleague here, and he just started an initiative within the company called Hack the Planet. And when I started talking to him, I noticed that he had the same itch as I did. He wanted to use technology for good, and that is what Hack the Planet is all about. Now, what do we do? I have a short trailer here.
Zal ik mijn diffuus aanzetten?
Hij staat nu op min 77 RSSI. Technologie heeft de wereld al veranderd.
Momenteel zijn we heel erg druk met het maken van technologie voor de bescherming van de natuur.
Dit heeft gewoon een impact op de wereld.
Je weet dat wat je nu aan het maken bent, ja, dat wordt echt gebruikt voor situaties voor leven en dood.
There are poachers who shoot on sight at these goats.
AK-47 bullet, and this is a 4.5 Abrams.
Forest elephants are the mega gardeners of the forest.
They are a critical component of the rainforest.
With the ivory poaching pressure, numbers have decreased massively.
If we lose the African rainforest, then the planet is in real trouble.
Wat we eigenlijk gemaakt hebben is apparatuur, slimme camera's en mobiele telefoonsensoren om ze van betere informatie te voorzien wat er gebeurt in een park. Dus als er dan menselijke activiteit gedetecteerd wordt, dan weten die rangers eigenlijk dat het niet in de haak is. En dan weten ze ook precies waar ze heen moeten.
Ik weet dat deze hardware die we hebben ontwikkeld uiteindelijk ervoor gaat zorgen dat hier levens mee worden bespaard. We zullen moeten werken om die beesten te beschermen. En daar gaat die technologie nodig voor zijn.
You know, it sounds dramatic to say it's a matter of life and death for the eco guards, but fewer of our eco guards will die, and more poachers will be caught if we can deploy this technology.
So this is a project that we have done with smart cameras in Gabon. Gabon is a country in Africa. And a filmmaker contacted us, and he basically tagged along with us on that deployment, on that project. And he made a short documentary about our trip. If you want to watch it, you can watch it at this link. I will also have a link to this on my last slide. I'll give you guys a chance to take a picture of that. But the main question is, how does a nerd like me end up in the African rainforest? Well, you have to find that. It doesn't come by itself. And we as engineers, we started to wonder, okay, what are challenges that we want to contribute something to? And we thought about poaching. Poaching is a big problem, but I didn't know much about it. It's something with elephants and rhinos and the animals being killed for their tusks, but that was about it. So what we did is we started to talk to rangers. Rangers are the people working in national parks protecting these animals. So we contacted WWF, and we came in contact with some rangers, and we just asked them, you know, what is poaching? How does it work? And just, you know, what are your challenges? And at some point, they say, we use a lot of camera traps. These are camera traps. It's basically a small device that is used a lot in conservation. When an animal or a human walks past the camera trap, it takes a picture and it stores it on the memory card of this device. Quite handy, and rangers use it to monitor animal movement and poaching activity. And we thought, when we heard that story, we thought, well, that's quite useful, but also these things are quite stupid, right? Because they store the image on the SD card, and it means that you have to go back to the camera, collect the SD card, and then after 6 months, you can see, well, there was a poacher here 4 weeks ago, or there was an elephant here 8 weeks ago. And you have to imagine that the places where they use these camera traps are huge. So you can't just drive there. Sometimes it's days walking to collect these camera traps. So we thought, well, we want to make it smart. How can we make it smart? How can we make this dumb camera trap smart? And this is quite interesting, because if you want to make a smart camera, it can either take you a couple of months or 10 years, because it's actually quite challenging. And we always have a kind of pragmatic approach to these challenges. So instead of reinventing the camera, we basically opened it up, we reverse engineered it, we took it apart, and we added some of our own electronics to existing camera traps. And these electronics allowed it to communicate wirelessly with a separate box that we placed high up in a tree that was able to do AI. I have a picture here of the system. So we have these dumb camera traps. They connect to this central hub that we placed high up in a tree. Every time a camera trap takes a picture, it wakes up a Raspberry Pi in that box. It downloads the images from the camera trap, And then we use a machine learning model to detect what is on the photo. So is there a human on the photo, or is there an elephant on the photo? And then came one of the most challenging parts. How do you get that message to the rangers? Because these national parks, they don't have Wi-Fi. And they don't have cell phone coverage. So we used a satellite modem to transfer that information directly to the phone of users, of the rangers. And within, I think it was about 6 months, we created a working smart camera trap solution. And we deployed this in Gabon, in the rainforest, to monitor movement of elephants. And what is interesting, if we spot an opportunity like that, so at some point we had the idea we want to make a smart camera trap. Then what is the first idea that usually pops into our head? It's usually either, oh, come on, we cannot be the first to think of this. Someone else must already be working on this. Or who are we to try and do this? You know, we're engineers. You know, who are we to do something about poaching? And it turns out that this is a very dangerous thought, because it kind of paralyzes you, and if you listen to that voice, you don't take any action. You do nothing. But we tried and solved this problem, and actually we are the first, we deployed world's first AI camera trap in Gabon, in the rainforest, in the world. And when we were visiting Gabon, we were deploying our cameras, we deployed them around a village to monitor the movement of elephants. We were visiting a village because we deployed the camera the day before, and then we got notifications. So we knew that the system was working, but we wanted to go back to the camera and check if there were actually pictures of elephants on the camera. And when we went back, we encountered these women.
Vos éléphants, ils sont là. Les dents, ils sont là en train de manger. Nous-mêmes, on n'a plus accès de piétiner nos plantations.
So what happened here? We came there to monitor the movement of elephants. We encountered these women, and they were very upset. I don't speak French, but later we heard that elephants actually broke into their plantation. So these women are, having bananas, cassava, and all that stuff in the plantation. Elephants sometimes come into their plantation and they eat all their food. And this is a big problem, because in these villages you cannot just go to the supermarket to buy your food, but they rely on their plantations to provide food for their families. And it's not only that the elephants come in and they eat a couple of bananas and then go out again. No, they actually destroy the banana trees. They push them over. So they really destroy their livelihoods. And this results in deadly conflicts. It's called human-elephant conflicts, and a lot of the times people get killed in these conflicts, because if you are a local woman, you walk into the plantation and there's suddenly elephants near your banana trees, they sometimes charge and kill people. In retaliation, farmers chase away the elephants or go after them with weapons and spears, trying to kill the elephants or lay out traps. I've seen these wooden planks in the plantation with this long nails. It's like, don't know what the English word is, but it's like the pins for you put on the ground. Sometimes the elephants step on it and it will wound them, and sometimes it will kill them. And we heard this story about the women and the human-elephant conflict, and we were going through the plantation, and inside the plantation we saw a metal drum, a metal oil drum. And we thought, what does a metal oil drum do in the middle of a plantation? And it had 2 sticks on it. So we asked these women, what is this for? Do you have like some kind of drum party or something? Well, it was pretty close, because they said, if we know elephants are approaching, we go to these drums and we start banging on the drums, making a lot of noise and try to scare away the elephants. And Tim and I, we just deployed our camera traps that can in real time detect elephants. And we are looking at this oil drum. And what do we think right there and then? We can automate that oil drum. Again, it's, you come up with an idea just because we are there. And that is the fun thing about the projects that we do, is if you want to do these kinds of things, you usually won't come up with these ideas from behind your desk. You have to go out and talk to these organizations like WWF, Rangers. You have to go out there, and then you will spot opportunities. Each and every time we go and do a project, we come back with 10 new ideas. So we're standing in that plantation and we think, oh my God, we can automate that oil drum. Then you have like a 24/7 alarm system that can chase away the elephants and hopefully prevent these human-elephant conflicts. So we went back to the Netherlands, and guess what we did? We developed such a system. It's this little guy. What it does is, it basically talks to our smart camera trap, and when our smart camera detects an elephant, it sends a message, a LoRa message, to this box, which activates it, and it will start playing noise. Let's see if it works, actually. There's not an elephant here in the room. Maybe a figurative elephant, but... Haha. First time you got rickrolled during a conference. And this is not a joke. This music is actually on the devices that are now hanging in Zambia. Because each and every time this system goes off, it plays a random sound on the SD card that is in the device. And we did this to prevent the elephants from habituating or getting used to this sound. And again, this is really important. You have to talk to all these people. We learned that elephants are insanely intelligent. They come up with all sorts of ways to enter plantations, push trees on fences, to cross fences. I've even heard a story, and that was in Gabon, where elephants wanted to enter a plantation that had an electric fence on it. And eventually they entered a plantation by crawling underneath the fence in a dry riverbed, so they basically tigered underneath the fence. It's insane what the animals can do. So you have to outsmart them a little bit, so that's why we put random sounds on it, and each and every time it activates, it plays something different. So if you're curious what a deployment like that looks like, I have a short video of that. Now you might be under the impression that I'm traveling the world year-round. Well, you know, it might look a bit cooler than it is in reality. Obviously, doing these projects is very cool to do, but I'm 99% of the time I'm just sitting behind my laptop in the office in the Netherlands, developing these kinds of systems. And to be honest, if you would have asked me when I just started as a junior software engineer that my coding skills would bring me into Africa, into Romania, into all kinds of different places in the world, doing these kinds of projects, I would probably have said you were crazy. I would have never expected to be able to do this. And this is just a small selection of things that we are doing with Hack the Planet. For instance, we have also developed an interactive artwork that warns young kids, mostly young girls, of the dangers of online sexual abuse. Something totally different, but it's a big problem in the Netherlands, and I'm guessing it's a big problem around the globe. We have also developed a physical installation for The Hague, for the city of The Hague, to increase social cohesion in neighborhoods, especially in multicultural neighborhoods. There are a lot of places in the Netherlands where neighbors don't talk to each other, they don't trust each other. And this installation had 5 doors, and every door you opened, you obviously went into the same space, and it had 5 screens around you, but every door you opened, you were basically standing in someone's living room, and someone living there was telling their story, and it was all kinds of people that just shared what they were doing, and it was the idea of, you know, if you just talk to these people, you know they are mostly the same. They also have to vacuum their house and do groceries, and it increases social cohesion. This thing traveled around all of The Hague. We developed a virtual reality application to combat loneliness among elderly people. A lot of people that are in elderly homes are very lonely, and we developed a virtual reality experience that helped them break out of that. We developed Help Maya. It's an interactive WhatsApp game that educates teenagers in a playful way about the dangers of knife violence, kids bringing knives to school, and bullying. I would say this is very much in the category of the latest Netflix hit, Adolescence. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's regarding the same topic. And a lot of people, kids, play this game. Actually, there are some schools in Rotterdam that have metal detectors when you enter, because kids are not bringing these small knives, but they have these like machetes in their coats. It's crazy. We developed an autonomous flying drone for Greenpeace to help them monitor forest fires in Indonesia. We deployed technology in Romania to prevent bears from entering villages. In Romania, they have a very similar problem as with the human-elephant conflicts, but then with bears. In the Netherlands, we now have a similar thing with wolves. Is that a thing here in Belgium as well? Yeah? Wolves eating sheep and stuff like that? It's a hot topic in the Netherlands, but... And we developed a virtual reality documentary that actually brought together 2 rivaling tribes in Uganda. These 2 rivaling tribes were killing each other's, stealing each other's cattle, killing each other over it. And we created a virtual reality application that showed a portrait of both tribe leaders, and we basically put them in each other's shoes. Through this virtual reality experience, they learned, you know, just how their life was and how common their life basically was. They learned through this virtual reality application that they both lost a brother in those fights, and now they're actually friends. So with virtual reality, we brought peace in a small part of Uganda. I wonder what would happen if we use this on our current world leaders. Would be interesting. And this is all made possible by the company that I decided to join over 10 years ago. And this is just a normal software company. We build apps and websites and you name it, again, for large customers. But yeah, during my existential crisis, talking to Tim and starting this venture, Hack the Planet, we are able to do all these things. And all these projects are losing money, so we're not making any money on it. And we can only do this because Q42 decides to invest in 2 guys working full-time on making the stuff possible that I just talked about. So that's really cool. And I think I want to call this corporate altruism. So altruism is a word, fancy word for basically, people giving away part of their salary to charities, for instance. But corporate altruism is the same thing. Companies giving away part of their profit to actually try and do something good in the world. And I hope more and more companies will start doing that. You might ask, why would a company do this? You're pissing away a lot of money for what? But I would say, for one, trying to do something good in the world. But actually, it brings a lot of value as well. Because I think 1/3 of the people that apply at our company mention Hack the Planet as one of the reasons. So it's not the reason why we're doing this, but it helps in different ways. I've learned this is where you want to be. When we're talking about work. Obviously, you need to pay the bills. Do something that is fun, that you enjoy, that you like. I think for most of us here in the room, the common denominator is coding. But that's not the only thing. I've learned, for me personally at least, try and combine it with something that gives you meaning. Because something fun might wear out. But if you're working on something that really matters to you, that won't run out that easily. That will keep you going. Even I think, because there are a lot of burnouts, people burning out these days, and I'm not one to judge because I've never had a burnout. But I believe that it's because too many people are just working on stuff that they don't care about. That's a more important reason for burning out than just working too hard. And doing something fun is not the same thing as something that gives you meaning. Let me give you an example. I think for the past months, I've been mainly working on creating these devices, and that means that I'm writing software in embedded C. And I can tell you, that's not my favorite thing to do. It really sucks. A lot of times I'm just pulling my hair out, getting frustrated. And you could argue that some of the commercial projects I've done in the past were more fun from a technical perspective. But because I now know why I'm doing this, that really makes a difference. So I think it is important for your own sanity, at least it is for me, but I guess it also works for you, to sometimes, check in with yourself. What am I working on? Where am I spending my time on? And do I still believe in that? Does it still resonate with me? And if it doesn't, then try and do something about that. And there are a lot of ways. Again, you have to work to get there. It doesn't come to you. You have to work to get there. So you have to, go talk to these NGOs that you might admire. I don't know, maybe organize a hackathon or something, or participate in a hackathon. Hack the Planet was actually started by doing a hackathon. And we were organizing this hackathon, and we just called a couple of NGOs, Greenpeace and UNICEF, and we asked them, you know, is there anything we can help you with? From that point on, Hack the Planet started, and it's now spiraled out of control, where 2 people are actually working full-time on this. So, you know, it doesn't have to start there, but you can start small. And when looking at the Drupal community, I think there's a lot of opportunities there, because Drupal is being used by a lot of NGOs as well. Like, I looked it up online, like Doctors Without Borders, UNICEF, etc. They are using Drupal, so there might be an opportunity there. Some people working on it, or? Yeah, which one is it? UNICEF? Cool. So that's what I want to encourage you to do, you know. Do that self-check-in and just see what you can do about it. So what's next for us? We're now actually, one of the most important things, which is very cool, is we're really now scaling up this sensor. This is our most mature piece of technology, and a lot of the projects that we're doing are pilot projects where we deploy a small number of devices in national parks to solve a problem. But with this, we're now actually scaling up to deploying hundreds of devices across Africa to keep national parks safe from poachers, which is really exciting. But this thing on the slide here is also very exciting. We just came back from London last week, and we were visiting ZSL, which is the Zoological Society of London. It's basically the zoo in London. And they have a lot of researchers as well. And they developed this camera. We always shied away from developing our own camera trap, because even as an engineer, you might think, well, it's just a motion sensor, some cameras, and a infrared flash. But I can tell you, it's surprisingly challenging to build a good camera trap. But the guys from ZSL, they built their own camera trap, and they ran out of funding. They called us, and they said, you know, we're stopping with this project. Do you want to take it on? And we went there last week, we collected all the stuff, and now we are moving this project forward. That's part also where I was doing all the embedded C programming. I'm now learning this tech stack, how the camera is built, how I can adjust it. But what is also interesting for you guys and for me is that the backend that is actually receiving the images from this camera is built in Drupal. It's actually built by a Drupal organization from the UK. They do a lot of work for conservation. I have touched a lot of technologies in my career, but I've never touched Drupal. So I just checked out the code base, was looking through it, and I remembered I was doing this talk. And I guess there's someone here in the audience, hopefully, that wants to give me a crash course Drupal, just so I can go through the code and you guys can explain to me how I can make changes, how the endpoints works and stuff like that. So if you are open to doing that, please come and find me after this talk, and maybe we can head upstairs to the contribution space. There's a space there where you can contribute to different projects, and then also mine, hopefully. I want to close with, well, let's call it a mantra. And yes, it's a bit cheesy, and it is, but most of these mantras and cliches, they are all true. And you can apply this to your personal life. For instance, when I was visiting concerts, I mainly like rock concerts. I was like, I was visiting Muse or something. Each and every time I came home, I thought, oh, how cool would it be if you could play the guitar like that? Every time I thought that. And I've never touched an instrument in my life, so I really suck at it. But I thought, I can keep thinking this or can do something about it. So I just picked up a guitar, took some lessons, and started playing it. At some point, I could play some stuff. I still really suck at it, but at least I'm trying. But you can also definitely apply it to your work life, this mantra, because again, you are spending a ridiculous amount of time working. So let's make that count. And especially in the field where we are in, I believe personally that we need technology for a sustainable future. So I really liked, it was you guys, right? The t-shirts, it's pretty close. It's not just do it, but it's you are what you do. You are not what you think, or what you say, or what you post, or what you complain about, or what you wished you would have done someday. No, action is what really moves the world forward. So if there is something you really care about, then show it. Build, create, contribute, invent. And that's how you make a real change. So I'm actually looking forward to what we're all going to build next. Thank you. I think we have time for some questions, if you guys have any questions. Anyone? Shall I bring the mic? Hello? I think it works.
The only question I had was, how did you end up like fixing the relationship between those tribes? Because like, how do you end up like, oh, we'll fix it with like virtual reality and then end up in like an African village?
Yeah, it's one of the craziest projects that we've done, and I think all of those projects that were crammed on that one slide, I could talk about that for an hour, so let's not do that. But in short, we were already doing some stuff with virtual reality because VR is cool, and as a nerd you want to get the latest stuff in, so that was really fun. Then we came across a study that was about virtual reality empathy. So how can you create empathy with virtual reality? Because virtual reality really does something else than watching a movie on a flat screen. It immerses you in a different environment, and your brain actually believes that's true. So it started with that, reading this research on virtual reality empathy, and then we started reaching out to someone that could help us with that. And eventually we came in contact with a small organization that does help in Uganda with these tribes. And we thought, well, let's try virtual reality in the most unthinkable place, because these people, they've never even seen a cell phone. It's like the most remote area you can go to. And obviously this took a year to build and develop. But yeah, we went there, we did the project, and then we heard later on that a researcher went back there to interview the tribe leaders, and then that's when we learned that this intervention that we did actually created peace between those two local tribes. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very, very much.
Any more? Yes.
I'm interested in how many different sound samples you have to scare the elephants, and what the difference is between the types of sound sample that you use and whether you actually had to use real elephants to see what they would actually react to.
Yeah. So there's a lot of sounds on there. We obviously just didn't put some music on there randomly. So we first did some research on what scares away elephants, and it's a combination of low and high frequencies. But has a combination of low and high frequencies music, but it's also the randomness. So there's also sounds of gunshots on there, starting vehicles, people banging on stuff, metal sounds. It's just like the unique combination of things. That's in terms of elephants what makes a difference. We're using the same system in Romania for bears, and there we learned that we need to put on angry alpha male bear sounds on the system to scare away other bears. And music wasn't really working that well. So you have to try it and just be in contact with people that know a lot more about this than we do. That's the key. Like every project that we do is in collaboration with rangers, NGOs that know everything about the specific topic that we're working on, because we are not the experts on that.
Okay.
We actually also have Celine Dion on the system, and it went off when we were in Zambia. Well, if Celine Dion doesn't scare elephants, I don't know what does.
Yeah, you talked about the machine learning models that you had. Have you explored all the stuff with LLMs, and has that helped anything that you're doing? And have you thought, what's your thinking about like the sustainability? So you've talked about Q42 sponsoring a lot of it, but it feels like the story you told, the work you're doing is kind of growing, being applied in more places. So do you envision some of the work you're doing being like in a financially sustainable situation? Bringing on local people to help work on these things, or have you had any thoughts on those areas?
Yeah. So regarding the AI, we haven't done anything with LLMs because we're mostly doing object detection on images, and LLMs are mostly for text. So we're training models. Usually we use YOLO models these days. And we just finished a new iteration that we're actually integrating into the ZSL camera that runs on a tiny microcontroller YOLO V8 models, which is really exciting. So again, I can nerd out about this for a long time. If you want, find me after the talk. Regarding sustainability, that's challenging. A lot of the projects that we do are just not financially sustainable. Even if we wanted to, like the national parks we're working with, they usually don't have any money. And if we need to sell these devices, including like R&D costs and everything that goes into it, that would become unaffordable. And even if we're selling them now at cost price, it's still usually a lot of money for these organizations. So again, we still need to find some funding to make those possible. So we usually find Q42 covers our salaries, and we when we do projects, we try to find some funds from WWF or other organizations, which is again quite a challenge because we're two engineers, we're not fundraisers. We now have someone helping us with that, but it's quite challenging, and we manage to find some here and there. For instance, the virtual reality application for elderly people, that became so big at some point in the Netherlands that we thought, well, either we need to really try and scale that ourselves, but that would mean that we would be running that business. You need a support department, packaging the boxes, helping the elderly home care facilities. We thought if we're going to scale that ourselves, that's what we're going to be doing full time. Well, our strength lies in like inventing these technologies and showing that it works. So we eventually gave that idea to an entrepreneur that is actually now scaling that up. So ideally, that's what we want to do, like bring it up to a certain scale, and then if some other entity can take it on and make it bigger than we ever could, that's ideal. I think we have time for one more question, quick one, or don't we? Yeah, one more.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much for your talk. It's very interesting to see what you're doing. Very inspirational. I just had your last slide on the mantra you said. Mm-hmm. It got me thinking, and I think maybe you have to reconsider that also a little bit, because there are a lot of people who cannot do so much, and they have maybe a disability or sickness, or there's not the means or the measures to do anything so much. So I don't think that should be their identity. It's not you are what you do, and maybe it's not so motivational for everyone. You know what I mean?
I think no mantra is motivational for everyone. I think what I mean by it is obviously you have to have your basics covered. Like if you cannot pay for food, then I don't expect you to do this. So you have to have your life in order up to some level to start thinking about these things. But again, I do believe in it because maybe it just stems a bit from my frustration that there are too many people with opinions on the internet. Like you go online, everybody says everything is black and white, everybody's talking. But again, if you really care about something, then try and do something about it. And if you have a disability, it doesn't mean that you cannot do anything about it. Again, if you're, I don't know what your disability is, but maybe you were doing something about accessibility on the web. I don't know if that's your thing, if you're colorblind or if you have a visual impairment, then if you have that disability, you can still do something about the thing that you care about.
I'm just saying you should not have that as your identity. Let's define what you are.
Yeah, let's not get into the philosophical discussion on what is who you are, but I thank you for your comment. Yeah, it's more about, try not to talk too much, act. All right, thanks.